You wake up, and there's a sinking feeling in your stomach. You promised yourself yesterday that today would be the day you'd make a change. You said you'd start that project, or maybe finish that book, or even take that first step toward your long-term goals. But now, as the hours slip by, your mind starts to cloud over with 1,000 excuses. I need more time. I'm not ready. Maybe tomorrow. You know deep down that you're lying to yourself. The truth is, you're stuck, and you don't know how to move forward. But here's the hard truth. Nothing is going to change until you force yourself to take action. Change doesn't happen in the comfort of your thoughts. It doesn't occur in the plans you've made. It happens in the messy, uncertain moments when you make a choice to step forward, no matter how you feel about it. You might not feel like it right now. You might be tired, distracted, overwhelmed, and full of doubt. But the difference between the people who make things happen and the ones who stay stuck is simple. The people who act before they feel ready. The hardest part isn't the task at hand. It's overcoming the voice in your head that tells you to wait, to pause, to wait for a better moment. But that moment never comes. Not really. If you wait for the perfect time, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Life keeps moving forward, and if you don't take action, you'll be left behind. And here's the reality. Everyone around you, those who are getting ahead, they're not smarter than you. They're not waiting for some magical moment to arrive. They're simply acting while you're still thinking. Every time you wait, you lose momentum. Every time you hesitate, the clock ticks forward, and your dreams stay right where they were, out of reach. You don't need more time. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need motivation to get started. What you need is to stop making excuses, to stop lying to yourself. You need to get tired of your own excuses. You need to reach a point where you're done with the endless cycle of hoping that tomorrow will be the day. It won't. Today is the day. If you could only see how much further you'd be if you had acted yesterday, you'd understand just how crucial this moment is. The truth is, you're your own biggest obstacle. The world is full of people who are waiting for things to be perfect, who are waiting for motivation to strike. But by the time they feel ready, others have already passed them by. Those who move are the ones who succeed, not because they were ready, but because they acted before they were ready. So let's get real for a moment. Stop making excuses. They're not helping you. They're holding you back. You don't need to wait until you have all the answers, until you have the perfect plan, until everything aligns. You need to take that first step today. One small action. That's all it takes to break the cycle of overthinking and inaction. You don't have to leap into the entire process. Start with one thing, one small task, but start. Because once you take that first step, everything else becomes easier. Momentum builds on momentum, and suddenly, what felt like a mountain of work becomes a series of manageable steps. Look around you. Everyone else is stuck in the same loop of endless planning, endlessly preparing for the right moment. You know the people I'm talking about. The ones who are always getting ready to do something, but never actually take the leap. They'll always be talking about what they're going to do, but they'll never actually do it. And here's the kicker. They're waiting for motivation to strike. Motivation isn't the thing that gets you moving. It's the action itself. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff, waiting for a perfect breeze to come and gently nudge you forward. The truth is, the wind doesn't always come. Sometimes you just have to jump. You have to be the one to create the momentum, not wait for it to appear. And the first jump? It's uncomfortable. It's scary. But that discomfort is temporary. The satisfaction of doing something you didn't think you could do, of taking action when you didn't feel ready, is far greater than the frustration of standing still. So, what do you do now? You stop. You stop waiting. You stop overthinking. You start with one thing, and you do it now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not after you feel motivated. You act. The key to building momentum isn't waiting for some grand feeling of readiness. It's deciding that now is the time. The people who are succeeding aren't necessarily more talented or smarter than you. They simply refuse to wait. They act in spite of feeling uncertain or overwhelmed. And when they act, momentum builds. One step leads to another. And before long, they're where they want to be, while you're still making excuses. You don't need to feel ready. In fact, feeling ready might be the very thing that's holding you back. If you keep waiting for motivation to show up, you'll keep waiting forever. You have to take action before the motivation comes. It's the act of moving that creates motivation, not the other way around. As you take action, your brain starts to catch up with your body. Your energy increases, your confidence grows, and your momentum picks up. And before you know it, you're making progress on the things you've been putting off for far too long. But you can't wait for a miracle. You can't wait for everything to align perfectly. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And that starts with the actions you take today. It's time to stop making excuses and start making progress. This is the first lesson. Get tired of your own excuses. Stop waiting for things to feel right. Stop telling yourself that you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. You know that. You've said it before, and here you are, still stuck. The only way forward is to take action, right now. Even if it's small, even if it's messy, just take that step. Because once you do, everything else starts to fall into place. By now, you might be asking yourself, how do I begin? The answer is simple. You begin by acknowledging that today is the day. Today is the day you stop making excuses. Today is the day you move forward. Regardless of how ready you feel, it doesn't matter if you don't have it all figured out. No one ever does. You learn as you go. But you have to start. You can't keep waiting for the right moment, because there is no such thing. The right moment is now. Are you ready? Are you willing to push through the doubts and act even when you don't feel like it? If you are, then stop waiting. Get up. Take that first step and let the momentum carry you forward. Because once you start, the rest will follow. And every time you take action, it becomes easier. It becomes your new habit. No more waiting. No more excuses. The hardest thing to overcome isn't the task at hand. It's the hesitation that builds up in your mind. You've probably felt it. That moment when you know you should act, but your brain starts giving you reasons why now isn't the right time. It's a dangerous cycle. Your mind convinces you that you need more information, more time, more resources. I'll just wait until I feel ready, you tell yourself. But here's the thing. Waiting for the perfect moment is one of the biggest traps you can fall into. Here's why. The moment you hesitate, the clock starts ticking. Your opportunity begins slipping away. The window to act, no matter how small it is, gets smaller. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to take that first step. You know this. You've felt it. You've had that thought that tomorrow would be the perfect day to start, only for tomorrow to come. And then you push it to the next day, and the next. The cycle continues, and before you know it, you're a year down the road, still telling yourself you'll start soon. But what if you didn't wait for tomorrow? What if you acted right now, before the doubts and the excuses could take hold? It's in that moment of hesitation when you have the most power. Right before you give in to procrastination, you have a choice. And it's that choice that separates those who get ahead from those who stay behind. We all have the ability to act. The problem is, we wait. We wait for motivation, for the right time, for the stars to align. But life doesn't work that way. The people who succeed are the ones who move, even when they don't feel ready. They act, and as they do, the motivation follows. It's like starting a car that's been sitting idle for too long. The engine doesn't roar to life on its own. You have to turn the key and get it moving. Once it's in motion, it starts to run more smoothly. But you have to make the first move. So, how do you break free from the trap of hesitation? It starts by making a decision. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel motivated. Not when everything is perfect. You decide to take action. And the key is to do it quickly, before your mind has a chance to talk you out of it. Think about it. How many times have you sat down with the intention of working, only to find yourself scrolling through social media or mindlessly watching videos? The reason you do this is simple. Your brain is wired to seek comfort. It doesn't want to feel discomfort or stress. It wants to protect you from feeling bad. And that's where hesitation creeps in. It convinces you that it's okay to put it off, that it's okay to wait. And before you know it, you're stuck in a loop. But here's the truth. When you decide to act, despite your doubts, you take control of the situation. You override that instinct to procrastinate and force yourself into motion. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move. The more you delay, the more the task becomes daunting. But when you push yourself to act, even when you don't feel like it, the task becomes smaller, more manageable. The fear diminishes. And here's the interesting part. You don't need to take massive action to break the cycle. In fact, trying to do too much at once can overwhelm you and make it harder to get started. Instead, focus on the smallest possible action you can take right now. It could be as simple as opening the document you need to write, or sending that first email, or making a phone call. The key is to start. Once you take that first step, everything else becomes easier. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They think that motivation will show up first, that they'll feel energized and inspired before they take action. But here's the harsh reality. Motivation doesn't work that way. It's a byproduct of action, not the cause of it. The moment you take that first step, you'll start to feel better, and the momentum will build. But it won't happen if you're waiting for motivation to strike. You have to create it by acting, even when you don't feel like it. Let's talk about procrastination for a moment. We all do it. But why? Why do we put things off, even when we know they're important? It's because procrastination is often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort. But here's the secret. Fear is a liar. It tells you that you're not ready, that you're not capable, that you need more time to prepare. But that's just the voice of self-doubt. It's not based in reality. The truth is, you're more than capable of handling whatever task is in front of you. The longer you listen to the voice of fear, the longer you stay stuck. The key to breaking free from procrastination is to take that first step, even if it's small. It doesn't matter if you're not sure of the outcome. What matters is that you move. Movement breeds momentum, and once you start moving, the fear will lose its grip. You'll begin to see that the task isn't as scary as it seemed. The longer you delay, the bigger the task becomes in your mind. The quicker you act, the smaller and more manageable it becomes. Think about the projects you've been putting off, the ones that seem overwhelming, the ones you're avoiding because they feel too big. What if you stopped making excuses and just started with one small step? What if you didn't wait until you felt ready? Imagine how much progress you could make in just a few days if you consistently took action, no matter how small. The key is consistency. The more you act, the easier it becomes to act. And the more you act, the more momentum you create. Let's go back to the idea of waiting for the right moment. What you're really doing when you wait is giving in to fear. You're telling yourself that the moment isn't perfect, that you're not ready, that you don't have enough information. But that's not true. You'll never feel perfectly ready. The best time to start is now. If you wait for everything to align, you'll be waiting forever. The moment you stop waiting and start acting, you'll discover that you were more than capable all along. This is where most people fall short. They get stuck in the planning phase, thinking that if they just figure out every detail, everything will go smoothly. But here's the truth. Planning without action is useless. The best plan in the world won't get you anywhere if you don't take action. Action is what turns your ideas into reality. It's the only thing that moves you forward. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating the perfect moment by acting. Remember, action isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about moving forward, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's about choosing to take that first step, even when your mind tells you to wait. The moment you stop hesitating and start moving is the moment you begin to change. It's the moment you take control of your life and stop letting fear and doubt dictate your actions. So, ask yourself this. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," only to find that tomorrow comes and goes, and you're still stuck? How much time have you wasted waiting for the perfect moment to arrive? The truth is, there is no perfect moment. There's only now. If you want to make progress, you have to act. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. The key to breaking free from hesitation is to start. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to make a decision right now, this very moment, to stop waiting and start moving. One small step. That's all it takes to get started. Once you take that first step, you'll find that everything else becomes easier. The momentum will build, and before you know it, you'll be moving forward at a pace you never thought possible. The power of action is incredible, but it's often overshadowed by something that many people struggle with: overthinking. It's easy to get lost in the endless loop of analyzing, strategizing, and planning, thinking that you're moving forward. But in reality, you're just spinning your wheels. Overthinking doesn't move you forward. It keeps you stuck. The more you think, the more the task grows in your mind, becoming an insurmountable mountain instead of a small hill you can easily climb. You've been there, haven't you? Sitting there, thinking about how to do something, trying to figure out every little detail, stressing over the perfect plan. And what happens? Hours, days, even weeks pass, and you haven't done a thing. Why? Because overthinking paralyzes you. It tricks you into believing that if you just think a little more, you'll have the answer, the strategy, the perfect approach. But the truth is, the more you think, the less you actually do. This cycle is familiar to so many people. You get so caught up in your thoughts, trying to predict every possible outcome, that you forget the most important thing: taking action. It's not about having the perfect plan. It's about starting, even if you don't know exactly how things will unfold. In fact, the act of starting will give you more clarity than sitting around trying to figure it all out. Overthinking is often rooted in a fear of failure. You're afraid that you'll make the wrong choice, that you'll make a mistake, that your plan won't work. But here's the truth. Mistakes are part of the process. You can't avoid them. You can't wait for everything to be perfect, because perfection doesn't exist. If you want to grow, you have to be willing to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward. The most successful people in the world didn't get there by avoiding failure. They got there by learning from every mistake they made and using it to get better. The key to breaking the cycle of overthinking is to take action, no matter how small. When you act, you give yourself the opportunity to learn and improve. It's like learning to walk. At first, you take one step and stumble, but you get back up and take another step. Soon, you're walking with confidence, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. But if you had spent all your time thinking about the perfect way to walk, you'd still be sitting on the ground, never having moved forward. Action is the antidote to overthinking. The moment you take action, you shift your focus from what could go wrong to what you're learning along the way. Instead of imagining the worst-case scenarios, you're focused on solving problems as they come up. This shift in mindset is crucial. Overthinking is fueled by fear, but when you act, you take control of the situation. You stop letting fear dictate your choices, and instead, you embrace the challenge and use it as an opportunity to grow. Here's a simple but effective way to break the overthinking habit. Start small. Choose one thing you've been putting off and do it. Don't wait for the perfect time, and don't wait until you feel ready. Just do it. The goal is to break the cycle of indecision and move from thought to action. It doesn't matter how big or small the task is. What matters is that you stop thinking about it and start doing it. For example, if you've been thinking about writing a book, but have been overwhelmed by the size of the project, stop thinking about the entire book. Focus on one paragraph. That's it. Write a single paragraph. And when you're done, don't worry about whether it's perfect. Just move on to the next. The key is not to get lost in the big picture. Instead, focus on small, manageable steps that move you toward your goal. The more you do this, the easier it becomes to take action. You start to build a habit of doing rather than thinking. Over time, this habit will become second nature. You'll stop waiting for the perfect moment, and instead, you'll act right away. And when you act, you learn. And when you learn, you grow. That's how you build momentum. The more you act, the more confident you become in your ability to tackle challenges. But here's the thing. There will always be something else to think about. Another reason to wait. There will always be new doubts, new obstacles, and new fears. But you have to push through those doubts. Every time you make a decision to act, you teach your brain that you're in control, not your fears. The more you act, the more you build a mental framework that doesn't rely on perfect conditions, or feelings of readiness. Take a look at the people around you. Those who are succeeding aren't necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the luckiest. They're the ones who act, regardless of whether they feel ready. They push through the discomfort and get started, even if they don't know exactly what will happen. They take the first step, and the rest follows. You can do the same. The moment you stop overthinking and start doing, you'll start to see progress. And with progress comes confidence. With confidence comes the motivation to keep going. The key to success is simple. Take action. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect. Stop waiting for the right moment. Just start. Whether it's a small step or a giant leap, the important thing is that you're moving forward. And once you start moving, the momentum will carry you. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to learn along the way. So, what are you waiting for? It's time to stop thinking and start doing. There's something powerful about making a decision before you feel ready. It goes against everything your brain tells you. You've been taught that you need to have a clear plan, that you need to wait until everything feels aligned and perfect before you take action. But here's the truth. That perfect moment, the one where everything feels just right, doesn't exist. Waiting for motivation, waiting for the right conditions, is like waiting for the sun to rise without ever stepping outside. You're never going to experience the world the way you want if you don't step into it. Imagine if you never took action because you weren't ready enough. You'd still be in the same place, waiting for the right time, waiting for the perfect circumstances to fall into your lap. But the people who succeed, the ones who build careers, relationships, businesses, and lives they can be proud of, act in the face of uncertainty. They know that their success isn't reliant on perfect circumstances. It's reliant on their ability to act despite those uncertainties. Let's break this down. The most successful people didn't wait for everything to be perfectly in place. They acted first. Then they adjusted as they went. Think of all the entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, and even scientists who made breakthroughs, not because they waited until everything aligned perfectly, but because they took action before they felt ready. Think about your own life. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll start when I'm more experienced," or "I'll wait until I have more information"? That's procrastination, disguised as patience. That's letting the fear of not being prepared stop you from acting. You don't need to wait to be ready. You don't need to wait until you feel motivated, inspired, or full of energy. All you need is to make the decision to move, the decision to act now instead of waiting. Once you take that step, once you commit to moving forward, the motivation will follow. But you can't wait for it. You have to create it by taking action. Think about it. Every time you start a new project, you're uncertain. Whether it's launching a new business, starting a fitness routine, or writing a book, there's always a point where you don't know if you'll succeed. But that uncertainty is exactly where growth happens. It's not in the easy, comfortable moments where everything is going according to plan. It's in the moments when you take that first step into the unknown. It's in those uncomfortable, unsure moments that you find your strength. What you're experiencing isn't failure. It's the process. It's the same process that everyone goes through when they're trying something new. The discomfort, the lack of clarity, it's a sign that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's exactly where the magic happens. When you act before you feel ready, you build resilience, you build confidence, you teach yourself that you can handle uncertainty. And when you look back, you'll realize that it wasn't the perfect plan, that led to your success. It was your willingness to step forward, even when you didn't have all the answers. So how do you act before you feel ready? The trick is to embrace discomfort, not shy away from it. That discomfort, it's a sign that you're growing. It means you're stretching yourself, pushing boundaries, and learning things that you would never have learned if you stayed in your comfort zone. And, eventually, that discomfort fades. What once felt challenging becomes easier. What once felt uncertain becomes clear. Start with small actions. Don't try to overhaul your entire life or accomplish everything at once. Instead, focus on the first step, the smallest step you can take right now. Maybe it's writing the first paragraph of the book you've been putting off for months. Maybe it's sending that first email or making that first phone call. Whatever it is, make that small action happen today. Don't wait for the right time. The right time is always now. The key here is not perfection, but consistency. When you act before you feel ready, you teach your brain that action is the way forward. You condition yourself to step outside of your comfort zone. You break free from the chains of perfectionism, and you start to embrace progress, however small it may be. So, let's talk about perfection for a second. Perfection is a trap. It's an illusion that keeps you stuck, always waiting for things to be just right. The truth is, perfection doesn't exist. Every single successful person you admire made mistakes. Every entrepreneur, athlete, artist, and leader you look up to faced uncertainty, failed, and kept going. They didn't wait for everything to be perfect. They acted, and through their actions, they learned, grew, and improved. But you have to start somewhere. The act of starting, no matter how imperfect, is the first step toward your goal. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you'll never get anywhere. The people who succeed aren't waiting for the perfect conditions. They're creating their own momentum by acting when they don't feel ready. Remember this: the greatest enemy to success is the fear of failure. If you wait until you feel completely prepared, you'll be stuck forever. The key is to act in spite of your fear. Act even when you don't feel ready. Because every time you take action, even if it's imperfect, you're building the foundation for success. You're training your brain to rely on action, not feelings. You're conditioning yourself to move forward, no matter the obstacles in your way. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards action. It rewards those who show up consistently, even when they don't feel like it. So stop waiting for the stars to align. Stop waiting for motivation to hit. Start today. Take that first step, no matter how small, and keep moving forward. Because that's how momentum is built. That's how success is achieved. Now, take a moment and think about your own life. What is it that you've been waiting for? What is that thing that you've been putting off because you don't feel ready? Now is the time to stop waiting. Right now, in this very moment. Make the decision to act. Don't wait for the perfect time, because it will never come. Take that first step, and the rest will follow. There's a common thread that runs through every successful person's story. It's the ability to build pressure. You see, pressure isn't something to be avoided. It's the fuel that drives action. The people who achieve great things aren't the ones who wait for the perfect moment when they feel relaxed, motivated, and inspired. No, they are the ones who set deadlines, create urgency, and use pressure as a tool to get things done. Think about it. What happens when you set a deadline? Suddenly, there's urgency. The task goes from being something you'll do someday to something that must be done now. That pressure makes you focus. It strips away the distractions and forces you to commit. Without pressure, there's no push. You don't feel the need to take action. The time slips away, and before you know it, your goals remain unachieved. Deadlines, however, force action. They create a sense of urgency that your brain can't ignore. Without them, you float through life, waiting for a perfect moment to do things. But the truth is, there's never a perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you create by setting deadlines and making them non-negotiable. That's how the successful people around you operate. They don't wait until they feel ready. They create pressure by setting clear deadlines and sticking to them. They don't give themselves a backup plan. They commit, and then they follow through, no matter what. Now, you might be thinking, but pressure is stressful. I don't want to add more stress to my life. But here's the thing. Pressure, when used correctly, isn't the enemy. It's a tool. When you create your own deadlines, you create focus. The urgency pushes you to act, to get things done. It sharpens your mind. It forces you to prioritize. The alternative, waiting around until everything feels perfect, is what truly creates stress. Because when you don't act, you build a mountain of unfinished tasks, unmet goals, and regrets. That's the real stress. Setting a deadline doesn't mean you have to put yourself under the kind of pressure that overwhelms you. It simply means you make a decision and stick to it. For example, if you've been putting off writing a book, instead of thinking, "I'll start tomorrow," commit to writing just 1 page a day and set a deadline for when you want to finish the first draft. That deadline gives you a clear target. It helps you focus and provides the structure you need to make steady progress. This isn't just about big goals, like writing a book or launching a business. It works for everything. Think about how much more productive you'd be if you set deadlines for your daily tasks. Maybe it's answering emails, completing work assignments, or cleaning your house. Whatever it is, when you have a deadline, you get it done. There's no waiting around. You create pressure in your own life by setting clear goals with time limits. Now, let's talk about accountability. Deadlines are powerful, but accountability takes it to the next level. When you tell someone about your deadline, whether it's a friend, a mentor, or even a public audience, you add an extra layer of responsibility. You're no longer just accountable to yourself. You're accountable to someone else, too. And that accountability is powerful. When you know someone else is expecting you to follow through, it forces you to take action. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to look back and say, "I didn't do it." You want to be able to say, "I did it. I kept my word." That's where true confidence comes from. Knowing that you can set a goal and meet it, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. This doesn't mean you need to tell the world about every goal you have. It just means finding the right person or group of people who can hold you accountable. Maybe it's a coach, a friend, or a support group. But having someone to report to adds a sense of responsibility. It makes the goal feel more urgent, more important. You see, deadlines don't just create urgency, they also help you focus. They eliminate the gray area of procrastination. When you have a clear deadline, you don't waste time wondering if you should be doing something else. The task becomes simple. Get it done by the deadline. If you find yourself distracted, you remind yourself of the deadline. It brings clarity to your day and eliminates unnecessary choices. But what about the fear of failure? You might be worried that if you set a deadline and don't meet it, you'll fail. Here's the truth. Missing a deadline isn't the end of the world. It's just an opportunity to learn. The important thing is that you set the deadline in the first place. You took action. You created focus. And even if you don't meet the exact deadline, you've moved forward. And that's progress. The key is to keep moving, keep adjusting, and keep setting new deadlines. Failure is a part of the process. The real failure comes from never setting a deadline in the first place. Because if you never set a deadline, you never push yourself to act. Setting deadlines is how you build discipline. It's how you create structure in your life. Without deadlines, everything is vague. You might say, "I'll get to it eventually," but eventually never comes. With deadlines, you make things real. You make them tangible. You commit to completing tasks within a specific time frame, and that commitment is what drives you forward. The beauty of deadlines is that they don't have to be big or overwhelming. They don't have to be life-changing goals that you need to achieve in a week. They can be small, everyday tasks that you know you need to do. It's the consistency of setting deadlines and sticking to them that leads to success, not the size of the task. Every deadline you meet builds your confidence. It shows you that you can trust yourself to follow through. That's how you develop a strong sense of self-discipline. So, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start creating pressure in your life by setting clear, non-negotiable deadlines. Hold yourself accountable. Get focused. And when you do, you'll find that success doesn't just come to those who wait. It comes to those who act. Let's talk about something crucial in this journey of action: follow through. It's one thing to set a goal, to have a vision of what you want to achieve. But without consistent follow-through, all of your efforts will be in vain. You've probably experienced it before. Setting a goal, feeling motivated at first, but then losing momentum, getting distracted, and letting the idea fade into the background. That's because motivation isn't enough. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. What keeps you moving forward, what ensures that you achieve your goals, is the power of follow-through. If you want to succeed, you have to become the kind of person who does what they say they will. It's about more than just having good intentions. It's about taking consistent action, day in and day out, regardless of how you feel. It's about making a commitment to yourself and keeping that commitment. The most successful people in the world aren't always the ones with the best ideas or the most resources. They're the ones who can follow through, even when things get tough. But here's the kicker. Follow-through doesn't always feel glamorous. In fact, it's often the least exciting part of the process. It's easy to start something. It's easy to get excited and dive in, full of energy and passion. But what separates the successful from the rest is the ability to keep going when the excitement fades, when the initial motivation is gone, and when you'd rather do something else. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is the foundation of follow-through. Motivation may get you started, but discipline is what keeps you going. Discipline is the ability to continue moving forward, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when distractions are all around you. It's not about doing what's easy. It's about doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. And here's the truth. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build over time. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you strengthen your discipline muscle. Every time you push past the temptation to quit, you become more disciplined. It's like exercising a muscle at the gym. At first, it's difficult, but the more you practice, the stronger you get. The more you follow through on your commitments, the easier it becomes to stay disciplined and take consistent action. So how do you build this discipline? It starts with making small promises to yourself and keeping them. It's about setting tiny goals that you can easily follow through on. These are the little wins that build your confidence and discipline. Maybe it's making your bed every morning or writing for just 10 minutes a day. These small actions might seem insignificant, but they add up over time. They train your mind to follow through, no matter what. And as you continue to build discipline, you'll start noticing a shift. You'll start to feel more in control of your life. You won't rely on motivation anymore because you'll have developed the habit of taking action, regardless of your emotions. When you're disciplined, you can take action even when you don't feel like it. And that's what sets successful people apart from the rest. Another key to follow through is accountability. When you're accountable to someone else, you have an extra layer of responsibility. You're not just accountable to yourself, but to someone who will check in and ask if you've made progress. Accountability makes you more likely to follow through because you don't want to let someone else down. It's why so many people work with coaches, mentors, or accountability partners. They know that when they're accountable to someone else, they're more likely to keep pushing forward. But let's not forget that accountability starts with you. You have to be accountable to yourself first and foremost. That means showing up, even when it's difficult. It means doing what you said you would do, regardless of how you feel. You have to be your own accountability partner. That's the key to building trust with yourself. When you follow through on your commitments, you reinforce your ability to trust yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence and success. One of the most effective ways to ensure follow-through is to break your larger goals into smaller, actionable tasks. When you set big, overwhelming goals, it's easy to get lost in the sheer size of them. But when you break them down into smaller, more manageable tasks, you give yourself clear, bite-sized actions to focus on. This makes follow-through much easier. Instead of thinking, "I need to lose 50 pounds," you can focus on the task at hand. Like, "I'm going to work out for 30 minutes today." By taking things one step at a time, you make the journey less overwhelming and much more doable. Another important aspect of follow-through is celebrating progress. Too often, we get so focused on the end goal that we forget to celebrate the small wins along the way. But celebrating progress, no matter how small, is crucial to maintaining momentum. It's easy to get discouraged when you're working toward a long-term goal. But when you take time to acknowledge the progress you've made, it fuels your motivation to keep going. It reminds you that you are capable of achieving what you set out to do, and it boosts your confidence. So, let's recap. Follow-through is everything. It's the difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck. The most successful people are the ones who can follow through, even when they don't feel like it. They build discipline, they hold themselves accountable, and they break their goals into manageable tasks. They celebrate their progress and keep pushing forward. And they understand that the key to success is consistency. It's not about doing something perfectly. It's about showing up, day in and day out, and taking action, no matter how small, toward your goals. And the best part? You can start building follow-through today. You don't need to wait until you feel motivated. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. All you need to do is make a decision. Take that first step and keep going. The more you practice follow-through, the stronger your discipline will become, and the closer you'll get to achieving your dreams. When we think about the journey toward achieving our goals, the idea of quitting is often lurking just around the corner. It's easy to give up when things get tough, when the road is long, or when we're feeling exhausted. We've all been there. That moment when the excitement of the beginning has worn off, and the discomfort of pushing forward starts to feel overwhelming. The question becomes, how do you push through when every part of you wants to stop? The answer is simple. Make it harder to quit. The key to long-term success isn't about feeling motivated every single day. It's about creating a system that makes quitting harder than continuing. It's about building a life where walking away from your goals doesn't feel like the easier choice. It feels like the harder, less satisfying option. To do this, you need to create a structure that doesn't give you the space to retreat. Think about the last time you wanted to quit something. Maybe it was a fitness goal, a business idea, or a project at work. What made it easy to quit? Was it the lack of accountability, the lack of a clear plan, or was it that quitting felt like the path of least resistance? Here's the truth. When quitting is easy, it's too tempting. But when you make it hard to quit, by building in accountability, setting deadlines, and removing the ability to procrastinate, you make it much more likely that you'll continue, even when things get difficult. So how do you make it harder to quit? First, you need to set clear, non-negotiable commitments. This means no more half-hearted promises to yourself. When you commit to something, you need to commit fully. No room for maybe, or I'll do it tomorrow. You need to make it impossible to back out without serious consequences. Maybe it's a public commitment to a goal where others are counting on you. Maybe it's a financial investment, something that will cost you if you back out. The more you make your commitment real and tangible, the harder it becomes to quit. Next, create an environment that supports your goals. This could mean surrounding yourself with people who encourage you, getting rid of distractions, or even designing your physical space to promote the behaviors you want to encourage. If you want to exercise every morning, don't wait until the morning to decide if you'll go to the gym. Prepare your gym bag the night before, set your alarm, and put your workout clothes somewhere visible. By making it as easy as possible to follow through and as difficult as possible to back out, you set yourself up for success. Now, let's talk about tracking your progress. When you see how far you've come, it becomes much harder to quit. Imagine you're on a journey and you've already traveled a long distance. You're not going to stop now just because the end is still far away. You keep going because you've invested so much time and effort already. The same principle applies to your goals. When you track your progress, whether it's through a checklist, a journal, or a spreadsheet, you remind yourself of the commitment you've made. You see the progress you've already made, and that propels you to keep moving forward. Another powerful tool is building momentum. Once you've started taking action, every additional step becomes easier. That's why it's crucial to keep moving, even when you don't feel like it. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. But once you begin, you build momentum, and momentum makes it easier to continue. You don't have to see the entire path ahead of you. Just focus on the next step. When you've committed to a goal and you've taken the first step, don't give yourself a chance to hesitate. Keep going. Let's also talk about finding purpose in the discomfort. It's easy to quit when something feels difficult, but it's in those difficult moments that growth happens. Growth isn't about taking the easy road. It's about pushing through the tough moments when you want to stop, and finding meaning in the process. Think about the things you've achieved in your life. Did they come easily? Of course not. You had to push through discomfort, fear, and doubt. But when you look back on those achievements, you don't remember the difficulty. You remember the pride you felt for persevering. The same goes for your current goals. The discomfort you're feeling right now, the struggle, the frustration, the desire to quit, is a sign that you're growing. Embrace it. Don't shy away from it. When you choose to keep going, even when it's hard, you prove to yourself that you're capable of handling whatever comes your way. You build resilience, you build strength, and that strength is what will carry you through when things get even harder. Accountability partners are another essential part of the equation. When you have someone to report to, whether it's a coach, a friend, or a mentor, it makes quitting harder. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to say, "I didn't follow through." Having someone to check in with, someone who will hold you accountable, makes it more likely that you'll keep going, even when things get tough. And remember, accountability doesn't just come from others. It starts with you. You have to be accountable to yourself first. You have to honor your word, even when it feels hard. Here's the key. Make quitting unattractive. When you build a system that supports your success, that makes following through easier and quitting harder, you start to change your mindset. You no longer see quitting as an option. You see it as a failure, something that will cost you in the long run. And when you have that mentality, you won't let yourself quit. The pain of quitting will outweigh the discomfort of pushing through. One more strategy is to visualize your future self. Think about how you'll feel when you've achieved your goal. What will your life look like? How will you feel about yourself? Now, think about how you'll feel if you quit. What will you have to face? The regret? The frustration? The feeling of knowing you didn't give it your all? When you visualize the future, you can connect with the pain of quitting and the rewards of perseverance. That vision of success will push you forward, even when it feels difficult. The truth is, quitting is easy. It's the path of least resistance. But the people who achieve extraordinary things aren't the ones who take the easy road. They're the ones who push through when it's uncomfortable, who keep going when they'd rather stop, who make quitting feel like the harder choice. And that's what you're capable of. You can create a system that makes quitting unthinkable. You can build the discipline, accountability, and mindset that will carry you through even the toughest challenges. Now, think about your current goals. What would happen if you stopped allowing quitting to be an option? What if you committed to your goals and made it impossible to back out? What would your life look like a year from now if you just kept going, no matter what? The truth is, you can do this. You have everything you need to succeed. The only thing stopping you is your willingness to make quitting harder than continuing. We all experience it. Those days when your mind is screaming at you to do nothing. The temptation to quit, to give in to distractions, to just let go and rest for just today. It's those moments when the resistance feels too strong to push through, when every fiber of your being wants to stay in your comfort zone. But here's the secret. Those are the moments that matter the most. The true test of your commitment to your goals is how you show up when you feel like doing nothing. It's how you handle the days when you'd rather give up, but you decide to keep moving anyway. Let's take a step back for a moment. Think about the last time you felt like quitting. Maybe it was a project you were working on, a fitness goal you had set, or something you promised yourself you would do. What did you do? Did you give in to the temptation to stop? Or did you push through? The truth is, every time you push through when you don't feel like it, you're building something inside of you. It's not just about completing the task at hand. It's about strengthening your willpower. It's about proving to yourself that you don't need motivation to move forward. You just need the decision to act. Here's the reality. Your brain is constantly trying to protect you from discomfort. It's designed to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And in those moments when you're tempted to quit, it's simply trying to keep you in the safe zone. But real growth happens outside of that zone. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in discomfort. Every time you act, despite how you feel, you're stepping into discomfort and choosing growth. And it's this daily act of choosing to act, even when you don't feel like it, that leads to the long-term results you're after. The key to overcoming this resistance is to take one step, no matter how small. The temptation is to wait until you feel inspired, motivated, or full of energy. But here's the truth. You'll be waiting forever. Motivation doesn't strike like a bolt of lightning. It's something you earn by taking action. When you take that first step, even if it's just opening the book, making the phone call, or doing the smallest part of the task, something amazing happens. Your brain catches up with your actions. The fog lifts, the resistance softens, and suddenly, things don't feel as hard. The trick is to start small. Start with a task that's so small, it's impossible to say no to. It could be as simple as writing a sentence if you're trying to write a book, or it could be as small as putting on your workout clothes if you're trying to get fit. The point isn't to accomplish the entire task in one go. The point is to break through the mental barrier that tells you to stop. Once you've done that, once you've taken that initial step, momentum starts to build. You've heard of the idea of momentum, right? It's one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. Once you start moving, it's much easier to keep moving. Think about it. When you're rolling down a hill, it's easy to keep going. But if you're at the top of the hill, it feels nearly impossible to get started. The key is to overcome that initial resistance. You have to push yourself to start moving, even if it's the tiniest movement. When you act first, your mind begins to follow. The brain doesn't like being behind your actions. It likes to be in control. But when you start moving before you feel like it, you teach your brain that action comes first. And as you keep taking action, the resistance fades. Your brain begins to expect action, and eventually, it becomes your default state. You stop waiting for motivation to arrive because you've learned that action creates motivation. The more you act, the easier it becomes to act again. This is what separates the people who succeed from the ones who don't. Successful people are not necessarily more talented or more gifted. They're simply the ones who take action when they don't feel like it. They don't let their emotions dictate their actions. They understand that motivation is unreliable. It's not about waiting until you feel ready. It's about deciding that you're going to act, no matter how you feel. And the more you do this, the more it becomes a habit. Think about the habits you've already formed. Many of them were difficult at first, weren't they? Getting up early, exercising regularly, or even just showing up for work. All of these things were hard at one point. But over time, they became easier because you made the decision to start, even when it was difficult. And now, those actions are second nature to you. The same can happen with your goals. The more you act, the easier it becomes to keep acting. The more you push through resistance, the more you teach your brain to expect action, not hesitation. The key takeaway here is, don't wait for the perfect moment. It's never going to come. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the rain to stop before you go outside. The rain is never going to stop completely, and if you wait for it, you'll never leave your house. But if you decide to go outside in the rain, you'll find that it's not as bad as you thought. You'll realize that you can handle discomfort, and soon, you'll be walking freely in the rain, while others are still waiting for the perfect conditions. The truth is, when you force yourself to take that first step, you're proving to yourself that you're capable. You're showing yourself that you don't need to wait for the stars to align. You don't need to wait for the perfect conditions. You just need to act. And the more you act, the more confident you'll become in your ability to handle discomfort. You'll start to realize that the pain of resistance is temporary, but the rewards of action are long-lasting. So, next time you find yourself stuck, next time you feel like quitting or doing nothing, remember, the key is to take one small step. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just take that first step. That's all it takes to get the ball rolling. And once you start moving, the momentum will take care of the rest. Now, imagine this. You've been taking action. You've been pushing through, and things are starting to move. But then, the biggest challenge hits: consistency. It's easy to take action once, maybe even twice. But how do you keep going day in and day out? How do you make sure that the momentum you've built doesn't fizzle out? The answer lies in building a routine. A routine is one of the most powerful tools you can use to ensure long-term success. It's the secret to making action feel effortless. When you don't have to think about whether or not you'll take action, when it's just part of your day, that's when things really start to change. A routine transforms what once felt like a big, overwhelming task into a simple, consistent habit. It's the framework that supports all your efforts, ensuring that no matter what distractions arise, you stay on track. Think about your daily life. What are the things you do every day without even thinking about it? Brushing your teeth, eating meals, or checking your phone. These things have become automatic because you've built a routine around them. You don't question whether or not you'll brush your teeth. You just do it because it's part of your daily routine. The same can be true for your goals. When you build a routine around your goals, you stop relying on motivation to get you started. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You just show up. But here's the catch. Building a routine isn't about packing your day full of tasks or overloading yourself with things to do. It's about consistency, not complexity. Your routine doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler, the better. It's about setting aside time for the most important things, creating a schedule that you can realistically follow every day, and making those actions non-negotiable. Let's break it down. A routine doesn't mean you wake up at 5 a.m. every day and work non-stop until 10 p.m. That's not sustainable. A routine is about finding small, consistent actions that you can integrate into your life without feeling overwhelmed. Maybe it's spending 30 minutes writing every morning or doing a 10-minute workout every day. Maybe it's setting aside 15 minutes in the evening to reflect on your progress and plan the next day. The point is, these actions become habits that don't require motivation. You don't have to think about whether you should do them. You just do them. And the best part, the more you stick to your routine, the more natural it becomes. At first, it might feel difficult, and you might have to force yourself to do it. But over time, your brain starts to expect these actions. It becomes part of your daily rhythm. Your body knows what's coming, and your mind follows suit. The initial discomfort starts to fade as you get used to the routine. And soon, you don't have to convince yourself to take action. It becomes second nature. Let's talk about flexibility within your routine. It's important to understand that routines aren't meant to be rigid or unchangeable. Life happens, and sometimes things won't go according to plan. But that doesn't mean you throw the routine out the window. Flexibility means being able to adjust when necessary, but still staying committed to your overall goal. For example, if you can't do your usual workout one day, that doesn't mean you give up entirely. It means you do a shorter workout or take a walk instead. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistency. This is where small wins come in. Every time you stick to your routine, even on the tough days, you're winning. These small wins add up over time. Each time you push through and complete a task, you reinforce the belief that you can achieve your goals. And those small wins build momentum. The more wins you accumulate, the more confident you become in your ability to follow through, and the easier it is to keep going. But here's something to remember. Don't overcomplicate it. People often think that routines need to be elaborate, packed with 100 different tasks. But the reality is, simplicity is key. A simple routine that you can consistently follow is more effective than an intricate one that you can't stick to. Start small and gradually build from there. If you try to do too much too soon, you'll overwhelm yourself, and that's a surefire way to burn out. Consistency is what makes routines so powerful. The more consistently you show up, the more you build trust with yourself. And that trust is invaluable. When you trust yourself to follow through, you start to believe that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. That belief is the foundation of all your success. Now, let's think about accountability again. If you're struggling to stick to your routine, having someone else involved can make a world of difference. It could be a friend, a coach, or even a group of people who are working towards similar goals. When you have someone to report to, it adds an extra layer of commitment. You don't want to let them down, and that can be a powerful motivator to stick with your routine. But even if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, you can create your own system of accountability. Keep track of your progress. Use a journal, an app, or even a simple checklist to track your daily actions. The act of crossing off completed tasks or marking off your progress is a reminder of your commitment and your success. It's also a great way to stay motivated, as you'll be able to see how far you've come. As you continue to build your routine, you'll find that it becomes easier to take action, even when you don't feel like it. Your routine doesn't require you to wait for the perfect conditions, because it becomes part of who you are. You no longer rely on motivation to get started. You rely on your commitment to your routine. And when you reach a point where your routine is firmly in place, something amazing happens. The hard work becomes effortless. It becomes automatic. It becomes something you don't even have to think about. You've built momentum, and that momentum carries you through the toughest days. The power of a routine is in its consistency. When you show up every day, when you keep taking action, even when it's difficult, you build momentum that propels you toward your goals. And that's how success happens, not in a single burst of effort, but in the small, consistent actions that you take every day. There's one thing that every successful person has in common. They've learned how to show up when it's the hardest. It's easy to take action when you feel motivated, when things are going smoothly. when you're excited about the possibility of success. But true success is built in the moments when you feel like quitting, when your energy is low, and when everything inside you is screaming, "Not today." That's when the real strength is built. The strength to show up when it would be easier to stay in bed, to skip the workout, to put the project on hold. The thing is, you don't have to wait for motivation to show up. Motivation isn't the key to success. Consistency is. And consistency means showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. It means doing the work even when your body is tired, even when you're feeling overwhelmed, and even when you'd rather just walk away. It's those days, the days when it's hardest to push through, that will make the biggest difference in your long-term success. When you learn to force yourself to show up, you build a foundation that can't be shaken by feelings of doubt, fear, or exhaustion. You stop relying on motivation to drive you. You start relying on your own commitment to your goals. And when you're committed, you keep moving forward, no matter how tough it gets. Here's what most people don't realize. The act of showing up, even when you don't want to, is what separates those who achieve great things from those who never get started. It's not about waiting until everything aligns perfectly, or until you feel motivated enough to tackle the challenge ahead. The people who get ahead are the ones who show up, day in and day out, even when the circumstances aren't perfect. You've probably experienced it. There are days when you don't feel like working. There are days when you feel drained, uninspired, or just plain tired. And in those moments, your mind offers you the perfect excuse to back out. But here's the trick. Don't listen to your mind. Your mind will tell you all sorts of things. It will tell you that it's okay to skip a day, that you're too tired, or that it's not the right time. But here's the truth. There's never a perfect time. You'll never feel 100% ready. That's just your mind trying to protect you from discomfort. Instead of listening to those excuses, take action anyway. Push through. It's in those moments of resistance that your greatest growth happens. When you push past the temptation to quit, you build mental toughness. You develop a sense of self-trust, knowing that no matter how hard it gets, you can push through and keep going. Now, this doesn't mean you should push yourself to the point of burnout. It doesn't mean you should work endlessly without rest. But it does mean that you have to get comfortable with discomfort. You have to learn to push through resistance, even when it feels hard. Because the moment you make it easy to quit is the moment you stop growing. And the people who stop growing, who quit when it gets tough, are the ones who never reach their potential. So, how do you start showing up, even when you don't feel like it? First, you have to stop waiting for motivation. Motivation isn't reliable. It's a fleeting feeling that comes and goes. You can't rely on it to get you through the tough days. What you can rely on is your decision to act, regardless of how you feel. You need to decide that showing up is non-negotiable. No matter how you feel, no matter what's going on in your life, you show up. Once you've made that decision, you'll find that it becomes easier to push through. Your body and mind will resist at first. You'll feel tired, uninspired, and maybe even discouraged. But the more you show up despite those feelings, the easier it becomes. You'll start building a habit of discipline. And when you build discipline, you stop relying on feelings to guide your actions. You start taking action, even when you don't feel like it, because you've made a commitment to yourself. And that commitment is more powerful than any fleeting feeling of motivation. The next thing you need to do is keep your promises to yourself. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're going to work on your goal for 30 minutes, do it. The more you keep your promises to yourself, the stronger your sense of self-respect and self-trust becomes. You build confidence not from the big, flashy wins, but from the small, consistent actions that you take every day. And yes, sometimes it will be hard. Sometimes you'll want to quit. But those are the moments that matter most. The moments when you choose to keep going even when it's hard, when you show up despite the resistance. That's when the real breakthroughs happen. Here's another important point. You don't have to be perfect. Perfection isn't the goal. The goal is progress. It's about showing up, doing the work, and getting better over time. The more you show up, the more you improve, the more consistent you are, the more momentum you build. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. Once you start moving, it becomes easier to keep moving. This is why it's crucial to start small. Don't think you have to tackle everything at once. Start with one small action that you can easily commit to. Maybe it's writing 200 words a day if you want to write a book, or doing 10 push-ups a day if you want to get fit. The key is to start, even if it's small. Once you start, you create momentum, and momentum makes it easier to keep going. You don't need to feel motivated to take action. You don't need everything to be perfect. You just need to decide to show up, day in and day out, and keep taking steps toward your goal. The more you do this, the more it becomes second nature. And eventually, you'll get to the point where you no longer need motivation to keep going. You'll have built the habit of showing up. So, the next time you're feeling tired, uninspired, or just plain lazy, ask yourself, what would my future self want me to do right now? Would they want me to quit? Would they want me to take the easy way out? Or would they want me to show up, even when it's hard, and keep pushing forward? The answer is clear. Your future self will thank you for the actions you take today. The key is to stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Show up now, even when it's uncomfortable. Because that's how success is built. One day at a time. One action at a time. Even when you don't feel like it. Let's dive deeper into how you can push through resistance and keep going when it feels like everything is working against you. The truth is, resistance is a natural part of the process. Every goal you set, every new venture you start, every dream you pursue will come with resistance. But the key to success isn't avoiding it. It's learning how to face it head on and keep going despite it. The most successful people aren't the ones who never encounter resistance. They're the ones who know how to keep pushing when resistance shows up. Resistance comes in many forms. It might show up as self-doubt, whispering in your ear that you're not good enough. It might show up as fear, convincing you that you're not ready or that you'll fail. It might show up as distractions, pulling you away from what matters most. But no matter what form it takes, resistance is always there. And the longer you ignore it or avoid it, the harder it becomes to break through. Here's the thing. Resistance isn't the enemy. In fact, it's a sign that you're on the right track. When you feel resistance, it means you're pushing outside your comfort zone. It means you're stepping into new territory, trying something new, or moving towards something bigger than you've ever done before. And every time you face resistance and choose to keep going anyway, you get stronger. But how do you actually push through resistance? How do you keep moving forward when everything in you wants to quit? The first step is to recognize resistance for what it is, a natural part of growth. Instead of viewing resistance as a roadblock, start seeing it as a signal that you're on the right path. Every successful person you admire has faced resistance in some form, but what separates them from the rest is their ability to move through it, not let it stop them. One of the most powerful tools for pushing through resistance is mindset. Your mindset is the lens through which you see the world, and it shapes how you respond to challenges. If you have a fixed mindset, if you believe that your abilities are limited, that you can't change, or that you'll never be good enough, resistance will feel like an insurmountable obstacle. But if you cultivate a growth mindset, where you believe that you can learn, improve, and grow through challenges, resistance becomes just another step in your journey. You begin to see setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and grow stronger. So, how do you develop this growth mindset? It starts with reframing your thoughts. Instead of saying, "This is too hard, I can't do it," try saying, "This is difficult, but I can learn how to handle it." Instead of avoiding challenges, seek them out, embrace them, welcome them as opportunities to stretch and grow. And when resistance shows up, remind yourself that it's just a sign that you're on the right track. Another key to pushing through resistance is breaking down your goals into manageable steps. Often, the reason resistance feels so overwhelming is that we're looking at the big picture and feeling paralyzed by the size of the task. But when you break your goals down into smaller, more manageable actions, you make it easier to keep moving forward. Instead of thinking, "I have to write an entire book," think, "Today, I'll write 1 page." Instead of thinking, "I need to lose 50 pounds," think, "Today, I'll eat a healthy meal and go for a walk." By focusing on the next small step, you reduce the mental resistance that often comes from looking at the big picture. When you break down your goals, you also make it easier to see progress. Progress is a powerful motivator. When you see that you're moving forward, even in small ways, it helps build momentum. And momentum is your best friend when it comes to pushing through resistance. The more you act, the easier it becomes to keep acting. The more steps you take, the more confidence you build in your ability to follow through. And the more progress you make, the harder it becomes to quit because you can see how far you've come. Now, let's talk about embracing discomfort. Resistance often shows up as discomfort, whether it's physical discomfort from pushing yourself too hard, emotional discomfort from facing your fears, or mental discomfort from dealing with doubt and uncertainty. But here's the truth. Discomfort is a sign of growth. It's a sign that you're pushing your limits, that you're doing something you've never done before. And that's exactly where the magic happens. The key is to stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to embrace. Discomfort is your ally. It's your teacher. Every time you push through discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can handle challenges. You prove to yourself that you're capable of overcoming obstacles. And the more you embrace discomfort, the less it will control you. The more you show up, even when it's uncomfortable, the more resilient you become. But how do you actually embrace discomfort? One of the best ways is to reframe the way you think about it. Instead of seeing discomfort as something negative, start seeing it as a sign that you're on the right track. Instead of avoiding it, lean into it, welcome it. When you feel discomfort, know that it's just your brain and body adjusting to new challenges. It's part of the process, and it's a sign that you're growing. And when you feel resistance in the form of fear or doubt, remember this: Fear and doubt are natural. They are part of the human experience. But they don't have to control you. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, use it as fuel. Fear is often a sign that you're about to do something great. It's a sign that you're pushing outside your comfort zone, that you're about to do something that's going to lead to growth. Use that fear to propel you forward. Finally, take action immediately. The longer you wait, the more time you give to fear and doubt. The longer you hesitate, the more resistance builds. But when you take immediate action, you break the cycle of hesitation. You silence the doubts in your head and take control of the situation. Even if it's just a small step, take action right now. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because it will never come. The best time to act is always now. In the end, resistance is just a part of the process. It's not something to fear or avoid. It's something to embrace. Every time you push through resistance, you grow. Every time you take action, despite the fear or doubt, you build confidence. And every time you show up, no matter how hard it gets, you get closer to your goal. As you continue your journey of progress, there's one crucial concept that can make or break your success: momentum. Momentum is what keeps you going once you've started. It's the force that drives you forward, making it easier to take the next step. But it's not something you can wait for. It's something you have to build yourself. The good news is, momentum is a habit, and once you establish it, it can carry you to places you never imagined. At first, momentum feels elusive. It's hard to get started, and when you do take action, it feels like you're just pushing a heavy boulder uphill. But once you take that first step, the next one gets easier, and the one after that, even easier. Momentum builds on itself, and soon, you find yourself moving faster and with less resistance. The trick is to start small. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you think about all the things you need to do. But momentum doesn't need big actions right away. It's about consistency. It's about showing up every day, even if that means taking one small step forward. That's where most people miss the mark. They start with huge expectations, and when they don't see immediate results, they give up. But momentum doesn't work that way. It requires patience. Think about your daily habits. The small actions you take, day in and day out, are what compound to create momentum. If you're trying to get fit, it's not about running a marathon on your first day. It's about getting up, putting on your running shoes, and walking for 10 minutes. It's about building the habit of moving every day, and eventually, you'll find yourself running farther and faster without thinking twice about it. The key is to keep moving, even when it feels like progress is slow. In fact, one of the most important aspects of momentum is learning to trust the process, even when you can't see the immediate results. It's tempting to look at where you are and where you want to be and feel discouraged by the gap. But momentum builds behind the scenes, and if you keep showing up, you'll eventually look back and realize how far you've come. You might not see the results right away, and that's okay. The important part is that you're showing up. Every time you do, you're reinforcing the habit, building the discipline, and setting yourself up for the next step. It's like planting a seed. You may not see the tree grow immediately, but as long as you keep watering it, it will eventually sprout. But it's not just about showing up. It's about showing up consistently. That's the magic of momentum. The more you take action, the more your mind and body get used to it. Eventually, the things that once felt difficult become second nature. You stop thinking about whether or not you'll take action. You just do it. And that's when true progress happens. The best way to keep momentum going is to celebrate your wins, no matter how small. Every time you complete a task, no matter how minor it seems, give yourself credit. This reinforcement helps solidify the habit, making it easier to continue the next day. Celebrate the fact that you took action, that you moved forward. Each small win is a step toward the bigger goal. When you take consistent action, you start to see patterns emerge. Momentum isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter. 2. Once you've built the habit of moving forward, you can refine your approach and become more efficient. You start to identify the actions that yield the greatest results, and you focus on them. You become more deliberate in your actions because you've learned what works for you. But what happens when things get hard, when obstacles arise, or when you feel like you've lost your momentum? The key is to get back on track as quickly as possible. Everyone stumbles. Life throws curveballs. But the people who succeed are the ones who don't let setbacks derail them. They don't wallow in defeat. They don't make excuses. They get up, brush themselves off, and keep moving. One of the most effective ways to recover from a setback is to revisit your why. Why did you start in the first place? What's the deeper reason behind your goal? When you remind yourself of your core purpose, it reignites your passion and keeps you focused. Your why is the anchor that holds you steady when external circumstances threaten to pull you off course. Another powerful strategy is to reassess and adjust your approach. If things aren't going as planned, it might be time to tweak your routine. Maybe your initial strategy isn't working, or maybe your goals were too ambitious for the time frame you had in mind. Don't be afraid to pivot. Momentum doesn't require perfection. It requires flexibility. Be willing to adjust your plan, but never lose sight of your goal. There will always be bumps in the road. There will always be challenges that test your resolve. But the difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't is their ability to push through those challenges, to adapt, and to keep moving. Momentum isn't about avoiding obstacles. It's about learning how to handle them when they come up. Think about it. Every successful person you admire has faced challenges. But what makes them different isn't their ability to avoid challenges. It's their ability to keep going despite them. They've built momentum by staying consistent, by taking action, and by adjusting their approach when necessary. And here's the most important thing to remember. Momentum is in your hands. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you create by showing up, taking action, and staying consistent. The more you show up, the more momentum you build, and the easier it becomes to keep going. You control your momentum, and the only thing standing between you and success is your willingness to take that next step. So, if you feel stuck, if you feel like you're not making progress, just take one small step. The key is to keep moving. Once you take that step, momentum will begin to build, and everything else will fall into place. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes. But when you act, you start the cycle of momentum. And once that cycle starts, it's unstoppable. As we wrap up this journey of taking action and pushing through, it's time to talk about something that will solidify your growth. How to make your progress sustainable. So far, you've learned how to take that first step, how to keep showing up when you don't feel like it, and how to push through resistance. But now, the real challenge is to sustain that effort over the long term. It's easy to start strong, but what happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when the excitement fades? and life's distractions creep in. How do you ensure that your commitment to progress doesn't waver? The key to sustainable progress is building a system that supports your success. Systems are the structure that allow you to continue moving forward, even when motivation is low or when obstacles arise. They are the foundation that holds your commitment, your habits, and your goals in place. Without a system, you're relying on willpower and motivation, which are unreliable. With a system, success becomes inevitable because you've set yourself up to win, no matter what. A system starts with small, manageable actions. When you first begin working toward a goal, it's easy to think you need to do everything at once. You're motivated, energized, and ready to take on the world. But if you try to do too much too soon, you'll burn out. That's why it's crucial to start small. Build up your momentum with small steps. Focus on consistent, manageable tasks that you can easily fit into your daily life. These tasks shouldn't feel overwhelming. They should feel like something you can easily commit to and execute every day. The power of consistency lies in doing these tasks regularly, without waiting for the perfect moment or a sudden burst of motivation. Next, you need to make your actions automatic. This is where routines come into play. A routine takes the decision-making out of the equation. Once your routine is set, you no longer have to think about whether you're going to work toward your goal today or not. It becomes automatic. When you wake up in the morning, it's just a natural part of your day to take action. Whether it's working out, writing, or taking steps toward your professional goals, your routine makes it easier to show up consistently. The more automatic your actions become, the less energy and mental effort you'll need to exert to keep moving forward. One of the most effective ways to build a sustainable system is to track your progress. Tracking gives you a tangible way to measure your efforts. It gives you concrete proof that you're moving forward, even on the days when it feels like nothing is changing. By tracking your progress, you can look back and see how far you've come. This is not just motivating, it's essential for maintaining momentum. When you can see your progress, it fuels your desire to keep going. It reminds you that every small action is a step toward your larger goal, even if the results aren't immediately visible. Accountability is another critical piece of the sustainability puzzle. When you have someone to report to, you're more likely to follow through. This could be a friend, a mentor, or even an online community with similar goals. The act of telling someone else about your progress forces you to be more committed and disciplined. It's one thing to let yourself down, but when you know someone else is relying on your progress, it becomes harder to quit. Accountability creates a sense of responsibility and increases your likelihood of success. If you don't have an accountability partner yet, find one. If you do, lean into that relationship and use it to keep yourself on track. However, it's important to recognize that life will get in the way. There will be distractions, setbacks, and periods where progress feels slow. But sustainable progress is about getting back on track as quickly as possible. When you miss a day or fall off course, don't throw in the towel. Understand that it's part of the process. The key is not to stay down, but to get back up quickly. Don't allow the setbacks to define you. Let them teach you, and use them as a reminder of how strong you are when you choose to get back on track. Now, let's talk about building resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, to keep moving forward even when you're faced with challenges. Resilience is what allows you to sustain your efforts over time. It's what separates those who reach their goals from those who give up halfway through. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through consistent effort and a mindset of persistence. One way to build resilience is to embrace the struggle. The challenges you face along the way are not roadblocks. They're opportunities to strengthen your resilience. Every time you face adversity and keep pushing forward, you build mental toughness. You show yourself that no matter what comes your way, you can handle it. Resilience is built in these moments of difficulty, and it's what keeps you going when things get tough. Instead of running from the struggle, embrace it. Learn from it. Use it as fuel to keep moving forward. Another way to build resilience is to maintain a long-term perspective. Sometimes, it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see immediate results. But success isn't instant. It's a journey. Sustainable progress is about playing the long game. The key is to stay consistent and focused, knowing that each small step you take is leading you toward your goal. Celebrate the small wins along the way. But remember that the real reward comes when you look back and see how far you've come. Lastly, as you build your system for success, make sure you're always adapting. Life is dynamic, and so are your goals. As you grow, your goals and systems will evolve. That's not a failure. It's a sign of progress. Your ability to adapt and make adjustments as needed is what will allow you to sustain your success over time. Be flexible with your approach, but stay committed to your overall goal. Adapt, adjust, and keep moving forward. The final piece of sustainable progress is self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself when things don't go according to plan. But remember, progress is a marathon, not a sprint. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going. Be kind to yourself along the way. Recognize your efforts and give yourself credit for the hard work you're putting in. Sustainable progress isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, persistence, and showing up day after day.